Hello and welcome to Home vs. House. I'm Lisa. Guys, today you are joining me on this walkthrough of this, what should I call it, triple digit end of July tour of my garden to see what is growing, what is blooming, some of the changes that I've done in this place since the last video. And guys, I am going to confess, I have not been out here much as it probably in the last week. We have had triple digits. I think today, the high for today is 117 degrees. And so I'm not wanting to be out here. The only time I'm out here is to water early in the morning and then to harvest like my herbs for teas, cooking, and then my veggies for cooking. So for the harvesting, I sneak out here just to get a few things, and then I sneak back inside. So let's get this tour going. I'm going to start with this first garden bed. I am going to lift the shade cloth off of the garden bed so you see the progress. So I have cabbage growing here, and they have been doing okay. They have not progressed in as much as I want them to progress, but guys, with the heat, I understand that they're just surviving. So I'm anticipating that if we can get through August, then in the cooler weather they will do better. My sage, on the other hand, is doing very good. And here is the look of my cabbage. Still continuing to fold a little bit more than before. But they're remaining green, guys, so that's what I'm asking for at this point, that they are surviving. Over here, I have my parsley, and it too is surviving. Got a ladybug on it right now, but I've harvested this quite a bit. And so they're keeping on, keeping on. Over here, my elderberry stem that I planted in the spring is doing well. I did do some research and found out I'm going to have to get another elderberry plant. I had a couple other stems planted in other places in the garden and they just did not do well. So I'm gonna have to get another elderberry plant probably next spring sometime, so that I can actually get some fruits, right? Over here, my morning glory plant is trellising very nicely up this trellis. I have one in another area you'll see later on this tour that is blooming and giving me some beautiful purple blooms. Over in this corner, I have a selection of shaded plants, Stilby, Heuchera, and Bleeding Hearts. The Bleeding Hearts is a spring bloom, so it did bloom this spring. The Stilby bloomed earlier in the summer, but guys, they are just surviving. So I'm pleased with that. Over in this garden bed, I also have another shade cloth over it, and I'll just give you a peek of what's happening here. So I have an assortment of purple cabbage that I had moved over. In here, I have collard greens that I've harvested, and then I have kale down at the other end that I've also harvested, lettuce, and then I had some sweet peas here that didn't do all that great. I did get a few harvests, and I need to pull it down from the trellis, but I have not been able to do that. Like I said, I'm just definitely in survival mode with this garden, and coming out here when I absolutely have to. My Weigela bush, this is a spring bloom. It is spreading out quite nicely. I still need to cut back the branches on this path here. And then this annual basket, it's still surviving. I got it on clearance a few weeks ago just to add a pop of color here, and it's hanging on. On this patch, I had planted some white clover, and it's spreading out some. This pot holds my time, and I have harvested this pretty much on the daily. Guys, recently I planted this crepe myrtle, and look at the beautiful blooms that it has already on there. I am very pleased with that, and it just confirmed to me that this is a good spot for it. I am going to have to cut back as it grows. I'm going to have to cut back the branches in this path as it kind of grows out. I imagine the path is going to get a little narrow here, and I'm going to have to cut back on it, but I will deal with that when it comes. Over here I did plant some beans that's trying to grow. Along the fence, I have some black-eyed Susan and some yellow coneflowers growing here. I have some nice blooms with the black-eyed Susan, and the coneflower is dying out some. Those two plants are, they do well in drought, so I'm pleased with that. They started off actually as seeds a few years ago, and I had them planted in another area on the inside of the garden, and last year I uprooted them and just planted them on the outside. And then I also, when I cut back from last year, the seeds, I just threw them down alongside the fence. So the idea is to add some privacy on the outer perimeter of the garden. Guys, my lemon cucumber, I have one cucumber on it so far. My idea of planting the cucumbers back here this year is for it to trellis alongside the fence. I do think that this was too much of a sunny spot for it, so next year I'm going to do something different, but it was a lesson learned. And so far I have one cucumber. This is my first time planting lemon cucumber. I had gotten the seeds on clearance last year at, I think it was like Dollar Tree, and so I decided to plant it and just to try it. I have a pepper and a blueberry plant struggling to grow here. I did move this basket over here just to get it out of the way, because I planted some clearance plant in its location where I had it before. Over here I planted up this section a bit, so I have a blackberry plant growing. I also have yarrow here, and then I moved my lavender plant over here because it was dying out. I think it just had too much shade where it was before. And then I had some blueberry plants that I'm wanting to see if they will grow here. This is a sunny patch. But I also recently learned that I just needed to amend the soil a little bit more with some organic matter. So I just got some organic matter from my yard cleanup. And I have them over here, and we'll see if that works. Over in this third garden bed, I have an assortment of things growing here. I have kale, cabbage, beans growing here. So here's what this garden bed looks like. I also have some spinach, not spinach, but yeah, kale, collard greens, cabbage, and green beans growing here. That again, it's just hanging on, and I'm just happy that it's remaining green. Here is another cucumber plant that I'm going to harvest this one here pretty soon before it turns yellow. Again, next year I'm going to maybe plant the cucumber in a more shaded area. Over here I planted a canna lily, and that has been giving me some beautiful blooms. So this again tells me that this was a good spot for it. Over here I have chamomile and rosemary growing. And then down here I had planted this azalea plant. It is a spring bloom, so I'll see next year, next spring, if this is a good spot for it. It is growing though. I see some new shoots, so it's alive. Over in this pot, I moved it over here, and I just have marigolds and geraniums growing here. And then alongside the fence, I have my honeysuckle, a few patches of bearded iris, and other assortments growing here. I have this forsythia plant. Again, as I said in the last video, I'm not sure this is a good spot for it. It hasn't grown much, but I also know that this is a plant that it can take over an area. So I don't know if I would plant it in a different spot. So I'm okay with it not growing as much. It is a spring bloom, so as long as I get a few blooms on it for the spring, I'm okay. This spring it did not bloom, so we'll see next year. But we also had really wonky weather for the spring this year. We had late frost. We had, just again, not the best spring weather. So I'll see next year if it's better. All right, I'm gonna go back around. Let's see my tomato plant. Guys, look at it. It is nice and tall. I'm gonna cut back on it here a little bit. I break off some of these leaves just so it doesn't get so heavy, but it is, I'm getting tomatoes on there. What's happening to my tomato plant in another area is that it's getting worms in there. So I also am going to do a neem mix. I have some neem oil on hand, so I'm going to do a neem mix and spray it down here to see if that'll help. Over here, my butterfly bush is, I transplanted it and it's growing. See, we've got some new shoots. And then over here, I just have some beautiful annuals. That's adding pops of color here. I have my neighbor dog playing around. So that's what you're hearing in the background. Guys, this is the area, and this plant specifically, I've had to take off some tomatoes here that got worms in it. So they're not mature enough yet, I don't think, to pick and just have it ripen on the inside. So I'm gonna spray some neem oil on it here pretty soon. My eggplants, guys, I've gotten blooms and they just fall. So I guess it's gonna be a lesson learned. Maybe and next year I'm gonna try to do a little bit more research to see what can yield me some harvests from my eggplants. Down in the middle here I have basil growing, and I've harvested them quite a bit. Guys, this is the patch that I planted up recently. I had gotten this beautiful pot of coneflower, pink coneflower, on clearance at Walmart, and it was like $5 for this patch right here. And so I bought it and brought it back here. I've been wanting to add some different color coneflower to my garden. I had yellow for quite a few years. Here's the yellow patch over here, and then I just wanted a different color. So the idea is the end of the season, when I cut back on it, I'm going to add the seeds over on the exterior of the garden that I just showed you along the fence. And so I'll have yellow and pink ones there as well, for hopefully for next year. So that's what I did in this patch. Just added a pop of color with some clearance plants. The coneflower, so they're not perennials, but they do self-seed and they come back the next year. So new plants come back the next year. So I'm pleased with that. Over here, my sedum patch, it is doing well. I have an idea to elevate the pot a little bit. So I'm gonna do that here in a little bit when I get a chance. My strawberry, I am constantly harvesting a couple of strawberries per day from this basket. And then over here, I also have some cherry tomatoes growing on this end of the cinder block, and then some purple basil. I have oregano in here, some thyme in here as well. And guys, this is where I planted the willow. This was also a clearance plant that I gotten from Walmart, and I think I paid like $7 for it. I am running out of spaces in this garden, so I'm being very selected on what I plant back here. I was going to get 2 of those, and I decided to get 1 just because 2 I think would have probably spread out a little bit too much, but we'll see. Down over here in this garden room, I have my sedum, so Autumn Joy. It is doing, this patch is doing really nicely here. My canna lily is also giving me some really nice blooms, so I'm glad that I gotten it. This was also some clearance item. I've been having my eye on canna lilies for, this is the second year now, and I just was not able to catch it off on sale last year, but I'm glad I caught it this year. And this year my plan was to add some red to this garden space. I have lots of yellows that comes back every year, the coneflower and the Black Eyed Susan, but I wanted to add some red, so I'm glad this year my mission was accomplished. Over here is a seating area, and guys, I have not been out here sitting down much in the triple digit weather, but when it cools down, this is a favorite spot of mine. Earlier in the season, I transplanted some of these plants here from other areas of my home, and so recently this foxglove was a clearance item, also from Walmart, and I think I paid $4 for it, and I decided to plant it here. In previous years, I had planted foxgloves from seeds over up on the top here, and they would just self-seed and come back, but then they got washed out. We had just like some flash floods earlier in the season, and they got washed out, and so I still wanted foxgloves in my garden. I had one rescue plant in another area, but I decided to add some over here, and so hopefully they will self-seed and come back. I also have a geranium here that's been blooming, and then a hydrangea plant that I had taken out the hydrangeas that I had here, and I just left this. This was a stem that broke off actually, and then I just stuck it in here. So I'm probably going to transplant it in a different area. Let's keep going. Over on this side, my sedum got stepped on over here quite a bit, and so I put up this border to just kind of keep it more protected, and I'm hoping that that would work. This, guys, is my morning glory that has been blooming for the past few days, and I just love the pop of color that it adds to this space. I started this from seeds earlier in the garden season, and then this plant here I also got over the last week from, I paid $1.50 for it. There are two plants, so I paid $1.50 for each, and they're butterfly weeds. So I'm looking forward to next year having some like a yellowish orange bloom here, and for it to serve the pollinators. My Chassa daisy was blooming a few weeks ago, and then I see some new blooms trying to come up. This canna lily also got on clearance from Walmart recently, and I stuck it over here. The other ones that I had before that I had gotten, I think I got those from my another garden center here in town. They're red. This one is an orange bloom. So again, really adding some pop of color here in this garden this year beside yellow. So I'm looking forward to the years to come to have just different colors here. This is the last garden bed, guys, and I see one of my Chinese cabbage died out, and guys, I have two remaining. I also have some kale growing here as well. And then my a watermelon plant that's not doing all that great. So lesson learned, next year I'm gonna just plant it in a different area. So that's what's surviving here so far. Alongside the fence, I have this Japanese spirea plant that's I cut back a few weeks ago. This sunflower plant was a volunteer plant. And then over here, my Vinca vine, it's doing okay. Guys, this patch, so I moved, it used to be, this container used to be over here. I moved it here, and I got some new blueberry plants, some more mature, two more mature plants. They're different varieties, and I planted it here because I was reading that blueberries like just organic soil, and this container I had built it up over the years, and I felt like it was rich with what the blueberry needed, and so I planted it in this. I took out the plants that I had here, and I planted the blueberry 2 variety here, and so I'm hoping that I get some blueberries in the years to come. These 2 baskets, they're still hanging on. I'm still getting some blooms, so I'm happy about that. And guys, this is a patch that I'm going to, my plan is to build it up a little bit more. So I plan to get some bearded iris from the front. I have lots of it up front, and I'm using it as a hedge for my shaded garden up front. And I'm planning on maybe one evening to get a few patches to add over here to build up the space. I did go ahead and plant the orange coneflower that I had gotten. I had it in a pot. I transplanted it out here, and hopefully in the coming years I'll get a patch of yellow coneflower, and then once I cut it back, I can also add it alongside the fence to add yet another like pop of color blend of coneflower. So that's the plan. I'm always thinking in the years to come with this garden space, and then I may get something to plant in here, but that's not a priority for me right now. I just want to build up the inside of this cinder block patch a little bit more. In the patches though, I've had purslane growing, and I recently found out that's so really it's vitamin rich, so I've been adding it to my salads, and so yeah, I'm pretty happy that I used to just be rooting it up each year as a weed, and I recently learned that it's rich in omega-3s and a couple other vitamins, so that was big and exciting news to me, so I'm trying to utilize that. And then in this patch I just have an assortment. I have some grass growing, and I am letting it grow because I'm going to use it for my fall decor. I also have a patch of white clover seeds growing here, and then in here my lamian. Alongside the fence here are some daylilies and bearded iris. I did have my clematis plant in here, and guys, I had it over here. It was doing okay, and I moved it in another area, and it just died out, so I moved it back here. I'm not sure it's going to come back to life, but we'll see. And then over in this garden room, guys, I have been using this garden room a lot more lately. I moved these two chairs over here, and I've been using it a lot more lately because it is a nice shaded area. So I might come back here and I do some reading. Not within the last week, but the week before last I was out here. So it's a little bit cooler than the other side, but the other side is still not bad on a regular summer day. Also some more clover seeds that I laid out here. I also laid it out in this patch as well, and it's coming on. I do need to do some cleanup over on that side, but guys, that's gonna have to wait till it cools down some. All right, well, I think that was it for this garden tour. And so thank you so much for sticking in with me. I am going to go inside and do some work on the inside. I plan to maybe for August month to do some videos on the inside of my home, some home decor videos. I have been out here for this whole spring and summer season just doing a garden series, but I'm gonna move it on the inside here, especially with the heat. So stay tuned for those, and I will see you on the next video, guys. In the meantime though, please stay well. All right, talk to you later. Bye.